Hey, and welcome back to my channel where I talk about living in Japan and traveling. So last week I talked about what it's like working in Japan during Corona. This week I want to talk about some struggles I had in trying to get tested for Corona right here in Japan. I just want to give some of my opinions on the entire process and talk about what it actually was like trying to actually get tested, seeing where to go, who to talk to, what the process was, how I felt, and what exactly I had to do to actually go get tested. So it's a lot more difficult to get tested here for PCR than you'd probably guess. Maybe it's different for Japanese people, but it seems to me that it's quite difficult. So Japan does have testing centers for COVID, of course, but they are not made publicly known. They're secret, as my doctor said. And once a doctor recommends you to actually go get tested for COVID, if you tell him your symptoms and then he deems you like, in need of being tested for corona, then he'll recommend you and then you'll go to the center and get tested. But you can't just walk up and go, which is very frustrating, especially if you're asymptomatic or you're feeling not quite well, but you don't fit the very rigid symptoms that people say. You just can't get tested. You just can't, unless you want to spend $250 about. So if you watch till the end, you'll see what it's like inside one of these secret little hospitals that are around here. I talked to a nurse and she said there are two ways of getting tested. Either a doctor will refer you, and if you're referred, it's about $10 or sent in. This is the one I got, so I got referred by a doctor. Or you can pay out of pocket, which I was told is about $100 to $250, or about ichiman to niman gosen yen. So, very expensive. So, my impressions of Japan's whole reported cases of corona, I mentioned that in my previous video last week. I was pretty neutral last week, but I think this week I can give a little bit more of my opinion. I do think that Japan has some suppression of how many people actually are being reported. I don't think people are being reported because it's so hard to get PCR tested here. And my opinion is that it should be way, way easier. It should be made public. I don't think it should be quite as expensive. And I think you should be able to just go and request it, which I did multiple times. And I was just told, oh no, it's just heartburn or it's just the flu. During a pandemic, I feel like you shouldn't have to ask or essentially beg to be tested. So you may have been hearing on the news that Japan has very few cases of corona and they're doing a very good job. But in reality, Japan has very few cases of corona and they are suppressing it and making it very hard to test. In my opinion, this is a human right. It's beyond just being able to be tested or not. You should be able to provide for the people in your country or your own citizens the right to know what's going on in their body and the right to be able to protect others based on the information they know about their health. It should not be this hard. Let me say that again. It should not be this hard to find out if you have corona or get tested. It was so hard. I had to ask. You shouldn't have to ask more than once, and I had to ask 2 or 3 times. That's insane when people are at risk of dying. That's crazy. So of course I'm kind of seeing this from an outside-ish perspective, but I've seen and kind of been told that the general opinion on if other people here find out that you've been diagnosed as positive for corona is that you'll be kind of looked down upon. You'll be seen as kind of reckless, or that it's your fault that you have it, which I think that's kind of a dangerous mindset, especially when I feel like transparency of information during times like this is the most important. So for me personally, I wasn't feeling too good. I had some chest burning for a few months actually, and I went to my doctor first time. I told him everything that's going on, and I was like, "Can I get tested for COVID, please?" kind of important. Stuff's going on, bro. And he was like, yeah, you don't have a fever and like you can still smell stuff. So, just take some of these meds that, wasn't really helping. So I went back. I told him that. And then he was like, yeah, it's probably the flu. I'm like, well, there's another flu type going around, I did have like a noticeable loss of smell. So I mentioned that. And then his face just kind of dropped. And he was like, oh, okay. And then I could see he really started to take me seriously, which, I wish he did in the beginning. But then he said, okay, like it's very a serious sign. So he called some sort of clinic, talked to them, and then told me that they would call me the next day. So I don't know their number. I just need to wait for this like secret agency people to call me. And then he kind of turns to me and he's like, yeah, but so yeah, you're gonna have to go to this like local hospital thing, but it's kind of secret, so can you not tell anyone the address? And I was like, what kind of like James Bond secret cult thing is happening here? He's like, I've heard of like secret hospitals and rumors of like, ooh, there's these secret COVID hospitals in Japan, but I never experienced it. So I was like, okay, cool. I won't tell anyone the address, but the concept I'm gonna tell people about because I can't talk about the concept. Yeah. Anyway, waited. Next day, I get a phone call. It sounds pretty busy in the background, so I'm like, oh, how many calls are y'all putting out? So they call me. They give me the address, and they tell me when I have to come, and there will be a red pole. So please wait by the red pole, and then we will come out. And I was like, this is like, what am I, at this point I'm like, this is like a movie or something. Talking to this lady on the phone in Japanese, so I'm like, did I just sign up to like sell my kidney and my firstborn child to this like hospital cult? Like, I don't know what's going on. So, I get the call and I'm like, right, cool. At the next day, at the time, I start biking to the designated area and I'm like, there's a lot of red poles in Japan. Like, stop signs are technically red poles. So I was like, man, I don't know how to find this spot. So I roll up and then I just kind of bike by this empty parking lot to my left. I'm like, I look over and there's this guy in this like nice business suit with this like red baton thing, but no cars. And I'm like, he's just not doing anything. He's very out of place. And he looks to me and I look at him and he looks at me. I'm like, he's like, and he's just like, Corona. And I'm like, what? He's like, Corona. Yeah, it's me, I guess. So he like brings me in. And then I have to wait outside and then eventually I am let in. So now I'll show you the clips that I took on the day going in and just what I saw. Going to get my PCR test. So this is what you see when you first walk into the hospital. It's fairly run down but maintained enough. Slightly haunted vibes. There are arrows that tell you where to go, and also this creepy brown stain from God knows what. You check in with the front desk with that guy right there, put your health insurance card in a bucket, and then he'll take it, sanitize it, and then scan it. I only saw one other person getting tested, not a lot of people, and you can see the people with their PPE in the back there in the blue. Kinda scary, but not bad. So I couldn't film it, unfortunately, it could be rude to the hospital workers, but after that I just followed the red arrows, had to sit down in a room with people in like full PPE, like blue entire face mask, face shield, blue foot covers, like everything. They had me sit down and like had me hold a tissue and then took away the tissue and then like put the like a swab thing like deeper into my head than I thought was physically possible. It was like in my brain. And then I was like, and then I died and then they took it out and then I left. That was the story. That's it. Luckily through all that, I got a phone call about a day later and they told me I was negative. They kind of like took a while to say it. Like the lady's just like, hi, how are you? On the phone and I'm like, good, tell me what happened. But she's like, hey, how's your day going? How's everything? Hope you're doing good. Oh, by the way, you're negative. And of course, she didn't have like a Boston accent, but yeah, they didn't really like get to the answer with me quickly. They just were like, hi, sure you want to know your test results. And it took him a little bit to say I was negative, and I was like sweating bullets the whole time, but negative. Yay. Yay. Hopefully not a false negative. So I think moral of the story here is I hope Japan takes this more seriously. Of course, I'm sure there are things it's doing well, but access to testing is terrible. And it seems just kind of overall the country is just kind of like a, what's the phrase, like a bird with its head in the sand or something, just kind of like, oh, we're just going about our business, acting like everything's normal, even though it's not. It's just like Japan's in its own little bubble, and everyone just kind of acts like nothing's happening and acts like there's no threat. So, hope everything's okay, and hope people can get access to testing later. So that's all for this time. I'll see you guys next time.